Hello out there, this is Wakeangel2K1, and I've been sick for the past few days. Yeah, it seems that despite getting my flu shot this year, I still managed to contract the flu, and was more or less bedridden for the past 2 days, and most of today too, but I'm on the mend. My body no longer hurts, and I don't have that high fever, so yay. A couple years ago, I actually caught the flu without getting the flu shot, and that put me down for a couple of weeks. So there's a miracle in modern medicine, folks. Go from 2 weeks to 2 days. How about that? Since this is the first time I left my house in 3 days, I actually decided to celebrate by purchasing something. So I got the GameStop exclusive Incineroar Evolution set. So here's the box. It's a very nice window box packaging with the Only at GameStop sticker stuck on right there. And it shows off all three of the forms, with the main Incineroar figure having a big, prominent location. Other than that, it's very much just an ordinary box. They even show the evolutionary path as if it wasn't obvious. So there you go. I guess if we're going to go in the proper evolutionary order, we should start out with Grumpy Cat here, which is Litton. It is a simple, solid sculpt. It's just one big old piece of rather soft plastic. Everything on it's kind of rubbery. And aside from, China and the impressions, there's not much. Although the sculpt is pretty detailed. He even has little tiny paw pads. So, all the details are in there, even if it is just a tiny static figure. The paint job on the face could stand to be a little bit crisper. As you can see, it doesn't quite go on around the nose properly, but it's not bad. Just a little bit of underspray here where you can see that the black doesn't reach the borders. So yeah, it seems that it almost looks like it's been cast all in red plastic and then they spray painted the black parts on. You'd think since it's so much more black than it is red, they do it the other way around. But I guess they're like me, they know that it's much more difficult to paint something red, so they opted to paint the easier to paint color and cast in a difficult to paint color. So, yep, that's Litton. And in case you're wondering, I am indeed using the cheat sheet they provided because there is no way I know the names of these Pokemon, as the last Pokemon game that I ever played was Crystal, back in my high school days. Next in the set is Toric. Toric is quite a bit bigger than Litton. There's your size comparison real quick. And this figure has some basic articulation. There's a ball joint in the tail that allows for waggling. And each of the legs is individually hinged, so you can get some forward and back and forward. So you can have a leaping cat, or you could have it doing a nice stretch. So there's some play value to this. Not a whole bunch, but there's some. The head can turn, so you got your sassy cat thing going on. You can mess around. It's funny how much smaller the rear paws are than the front paws. But, they did pick out all the details on the bottom. So again, can't blame them for skipping out and paint detailing. Even has a little bell. Although, I think it needs more than just a red circle. Because this just kind of makes it look like it has a weird eye coming out of its chest. That is not what a cat bell looks like. I mean, if that's what the in-game sprite looks like, or in-game model, because they don't use sprites anymore in Pokemon games, then okay, but then that's kind of their fault. So yeah, the paint job on this guy seems to be quite a bit crisper, probably because the figure is significantly larger, so all those nooks and crannies are easier to get into. So yeah, there's nothing to complain about with this guy. I mean, it's a very basic little, 6 or 7 points of articulation? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 points. 6 points of articulation, and I guess it is a nice little bit of foreshadowing, seeing how much bigger the front paws are. It lets you know what's going to come as this thing evolves later on. Transitional features, you might say. Alright, so let's get into the main part of this set. And there's the mighty Incineroar. And this is a pretty darn big figure. I had to push him all the way back so he fits head to toe in the camera shot. There is the previous evolution right there. So, yep, it's a big guy. Now, there's only 2 Pokemon figures that I actually have as part of my personal collection. So let's bring them in for size comparison. As you can see, he is significantly taller than Mewtwo and Greninja. So this is a very, very big guy. Looks like, with escalation, every starter Pokemon has to get more and more impressive, I guess. But yeah, this is a big dude. He is a big, big, big cat man. And with the fire belt thing, he kind of has the whole wrestler demon cat thing going on. So yeah, he's a very large figure, so that's a good bang for your buck. But how is he as an action figure? I'm here to report that it's actually a pretty darn awesome one. First, let's take a look at the articulation, because a lot of people focus on articulation when they talk about action figures. And this guy is pretty good. His neck is on a hinge that goes up and down, and then there's a ball inside of it that allows it to turn side to side, so plenty of range for looking around. He can look up, he can look down, he can cock his head at you cockily. So lots of expressive range. This could be a little bit tighter, but it's not too terrible. Universally jointed shoulders for all kinds of outwards, and it can go all the way forwards. Sculpt of the shoulder does make it go a little bit outwards, but not too much. Elbow gets a solid 90 degrees, and it is sculpted to have a bicep swivel, but the sculpt of the upper bicep here kind of prevents it from going in. As you can see, it's kind of deforming the plastic. If they had just cut this out, it wouldn't look as smooth from the side, but it would offer more articulation, more range of its articulation, more posability. Articulation is joints, posability is what you can do with the joints. And there's a universally jointed wrist, which is really impressive. They did not need to go that far, but they did, and I'm happy they did. Way to go. Weirdly is his chest joint. Like, can it do anything? Like I can kind of make it go side to side like this, but then it pops out. Yeah, like there's a ball in here and a socket in here, but as far as I'm aware, this isn't for articulation, because there is 0 movement here in the chest joint. I think that was just like they didn't want to make one big mold for the entire torso, so they made 2 smaller ones. That's the only thing I could think of, because this is not a point of articulation. It doesn't move. The hips are damned impressive. Look at all of that outward movement. For just a very simple cup and ball joint, that's a lot of movement. You usually can't get that far out with just a simple ball. And it can go all the way forward, so this guy can actually totally sit down. Again, kind of a rare thing for a simple ball joint to do. It can't go back too far, but it can go back quite a bit. Like, not as far forward, but, usually the sculpt of the butt prevents the leg from going back too far, but here it's pretty good. You get a good range. And also, you get solid 90-degree knees, and there is a knee swivel, and really good ankles, which go forward and backwards, and they rock side to side. So, you can actually get some pretty dynamic wide splayed poses with your Incineroar figure, and he will stand just fine. And look, I'm not even tripoding him with his tail. He's just standing like this. And that's when... There we go. That's when he decides to move wrong, but no, he doesn't. So yeah. And the tail has a ball joint, so it can rotate all around, and it can go up and down. You can pull it closer to his body. You can have it far away from his body. You can put it on the ground just in case you want to make his stance a little bit more solid. But like I said, he's stable enough that he doesn't really need it too much. So yeah, this is a really, really cool figure. It's a great Incineroar. Paint job. Let's look up at that head. Yeah, you're probably seeing what's pretty obvious. The parts of him that are cast in red versus the parts of him that are painted red are not good. Like, look at that. That looks like, as a guy who's had to paint a whole bunch of action figures over the years, one thing I know is just terrible is red. It does not like to paint on in one smooth layer. I would normally have to go at least 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times to make a coat of red look good, especially if the base underneath it is a dark color like black. Usually to try and save paint and time, I would paint a white layer first and then paint red, but it looks like here they just put 1 coat of red paint on top of the black underlayer and it just does not look right. His face is pretty good though. I mean, there's a little bit of overspray with the yellow of his eyes, but I can forgive that. His teeth are nicely picked out. That looks really cool. They gave him his iconic sneer. And aside from that really bad red stripe on top of his head, for the most part, he seems pretty okay. I mean, there's this weird spot here where the obvious injection scar of the plastic, like, man, that's bad. Why couldn't, like, I figure if it comes out of the mold looking like this, send it into the recycler, because that is bad. I'm zoomed in a little bit too far now. The belt looks pretty good. That yellow bit in the front is pretty darn crisp, all things considered. And not too much overspray around it, so, you know, at least the belt is well painted. I guess really the only bad part of the paint job is the top of his head. Aside from that, it all's pretty good. It's fairly crisp. I give it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, like I said, I haven't played a Pokemon game since I was in high school, and I don't really know anything about Incineroar as a you know, a character to play as. Although he does kind of strike me as the Pokemon starter that they figured is going to get into the next Smash Brothers game, because yeah, look at this guy. This guy totally looks like he was made to be in a fighting game, doesn't he? If not for like Pokken Tournament 2, then they were really angling to get Incineroar to represent his generation for the new Smash Brothers. You might want to quote me on that, because then if the new Smash Brothers gets announced and Incineroar is a playable character, I'll get to play the I'm Right tune. Alright, so the real reason I bought Incineroar, because like I said, I have no real love with the Pokemon franchise. I don't dislike it, but I'm not exactly a collector. I bought this guy to make a custom. What could I make a custom out of with this guy? Well, I think it would be a little bit too easy for me to just tell you. How about some of you guys try to guess in the comments and I'll let you know if you're right. Because I got a lot of other work to do. I'm still recovering a little bit. I've already started working on my next custom and I'm almost done with another one, which you're going to see in just a few days, hopefully. But yeah, let's have a little bit of fun. See if you can guess what this guy's going to be. I'll let you guys know in the comments.